All right, let's talk about the directions for the map of the Cold War in Europe activity. You have the map in front of you. The first step is going to be carefully reading about each of the events, and that is posted inside of Shobi. As you do that, then you're going to summarize the event in 10 words or less, and make sure that you then include the year on your timeline. I've done a couple of things with my timeline. A lot of things were happening around the same time period, so I used both the top and the bottom of my timeline. This worked because I chose to write in rather small print. So if that's not going to work for you, then just again consider using the entire margin of your timeline. For something like NATO, I also chose to use a color code, and I added a couple of symbols because there were some things that happened besides the initial NATO treaty. Additional members joined in 1952 and 1954. And so I added some symbols to my map and to my timeline to indicate that. So that's why NATO is in blue with this blue timeline extension here. Also consider that when you come to the time of creating your symbol on the map, which is your final step in the assignment, you're going to want to think in layers, and you're going to want to think about how you can represent the information in a clear and visible way. And so you'll notice that I used bold outlines and lighter shading, because if I were to use a dark shade on the inside, I might not be able to read the name of my country or see any other symbols that are layered on top of that. I also went back and forth between a very specific title, the Truman Doctrine, which was one symbol, and an invasion, which represented multiple invasions, both the invasion of Hungary and the invasion of Czechoslovakia. There were also some items, since I only had 6 boxes in my key, there were some items that I chose to label directly on the map itself. The area around Berlin, including the blockade and airlift and the Berlin Wall, and the atomic bomb. And so as long as you have your item labeled so that it matches your timeline, then you should be okay and not necessarily need to add it to your key. So let's review the 4 steps again. Read your event card, summarize it in your notebook in 10 words or less. They do not have to be complete sentences. Phrases will work too. Make sure that you include it on your timeline, and then create some kind of visual or symbol on your map. And don't forget color, shading, outlines, borders, and keep your symbols small and singular, meaning that you don't want to draw an entire army or tank battalion invading. One tank or one soldier will do. The reason I chose $3 signs was that I was trying to indicate the colors of the United States since they were funding it, but it was difficult to make a white dollar sign, and so I chose to do gray. But there was a reason behind using $3 signs as opposed to just a single. All right, remember, if you have any questions, you can always call me or email me anytime.